What is up, you heathens and demons? You beautiful, blasphemous people. Welcome back to the Raging Atheist. And I've been a raging. Got really fucking mad last night. Still just really angry. What's up, Lady Tasha? What's up, Nate Brody? First time seeing Nate up in the chat. Really like Nate. Like his work with Dragnot, and smart dude. So, you know, I'm sure none of the people that I was speaking to last night intended to be offensive and dismissive of Native American tradition, Native American facts, or the plight of what's going on in the tribes of the Native American nations right now today. And I am not upset with any person, but I am upset with just how people cannot know. I am upset with just how people can dismiss, justify, try to pretend that what happened to my people doesn't fucking matter. Just because they see this white skin. I'm still really angry. But I deleted the stream from last night because I was raged. I mean, I was enraged. And I'm still just so angry. You know, I don't try to take away the plights of other peoples. I fight for equality for all people. And if you're gonna fight for equality, there's nobody that needs you to fight for them more than Native American people. Nobody. You know, people have this misconception that the European came and, you know, intentionally killed all of the Native Americans, and that's not what happened. The European came and they brought illness and sickness, and Native Americans didn't know illness and sickness. And so the illness and sickness of Europeans is what caused the genocide of Native American peoples. And them killing us, taking our land, that's all true too. But sickness destroyed like 98% of the Native American populations on North America. 98%. And we have done nothing to help them since. Nothing but take their land, nothing but push them onto shit land and tell them that they're sovereign nations while we don't treat them like a sovereign nation at all. We have pushed drugs and alcohol onto these reservations. We have made these reservations some of the poorest areas in the country. If you were to actually visit a fucking reservation, you would be shocked and would not think that you're still in America if they actually allowed you behind the scenes. Because a lot of reservations won't. Is my mic really quiet? Let's see what's going on. Let me know if you can hear, we'll bring it closer to my mouth. Let me know if you can hear the AC in the background. So, I get into a lot of arguments with white people about no DAPL. I get into arguments with black people about no DAPL. Nobody seems to understand what really happened in North Dakota in our recent history. Nobody. I mean, unless you were fucking there, nobody seems to fucking understand what happened at no DAPL. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the genocide. And we're going to start with the genocide. So let's talk. Do you see how skinny they are? Do you see the famine, the starvation? Do you see the fat white man standing above them? That's what I see. Does this look like America to you? Does this look like what you learned in history class? Take a look at this. This is children that were taken from the reservations and put into European boarding schools to try to push a European god onto their nation and destroy their culture. America, home of the free, land of the brave. America, the greatest nation in the history of the world, and goddamn Nakasuchi for saying anything bad about it. I mean, how Nakasuchi, how can you say that this ain't the greatest country in the history of the world? And our shit don't stink, and we've never done anything wrong. You know, we never had slaves. We never killed the Indians. We didn't take their land. This was ours. It was given to us by God. See, a lot of people know about Geronimo. Geronimo was a famous Apache that led his warriors against the United States government and actually raised hell for quite a while. What people don't understand is that they were starved. They had no choice. If they actually had food, Geronimo would have never led those warriors off that reservation. But they didn't have food. I mean, I get so goddamn upset about this shit. I will be literally raging now for weeks. Because it's like talking to a brick wall. It's like just complete dismissal of one of the worst genocides ever perpetuated on a people. You know, they want to talk about what Hitler did to the Jews. They want to talk about slavery, but nobody wants to talk about the genocide of Native American peoples, and nobody wants to talk about pushing alcohol onto these reservations to dull an entire population into submission. Nobody wants to talk about the abject poverty and how most reservations have to have casinos just to make any money whatsoever, just to have any kind of an economy whatsoever. Because we have abandoned them. We are waiting for them all to die so those treaties don't matter no more. Because, I mean, and like they don't even fucking matter anyway because they break every single one of them. Just makes me so goddamn mad. Just makes me so fucking mad, you know. And I've tried all day to let this anger just simmer down because I know that they weren't meaning any disrespect to me, and I was a bit drunk. So, you know, I'm like, man, I just don't want to be angry about it, but I am angry about it. I am angry about it. Let's talk about the Trail of Tears. My people, Cherokee.
He was the 7th President of the United States. Andrew Jackson was one of our most controversial presidents. Some say he was the father of our democracy and a great man for bringing people into the idea of a democratic government. Others say he was an uneducated, ill-tempered, vengeful man determined to have his way, regardless of the impact on the Constitution or on American democracy. John Marshall has made his decision, now let him enforce it. That was one of his most famous quotes. His support for and reinforcement.
Textbooks are now calling this voluntary, whatever the fuck they're calling it now. Like they weren't made to do it. The Cherokee and those nations down south volunteered to leave their lands behind. That the Trail of Tears is something that they wanted to do.
Enforcement of the Indian Removal Act was a shameful period in American history. Thesis statement. President Jackson's acts of criminal disobedience of the Supreme Court's decision were responsible for the broken hearts and lost lives along the Trail of Tears. Early history and conflict. The Cherokee land was originally in modern-day Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia.
Alright, so this video isn't going to get too in-depth into the history of it, but I've actually studied the history of it very thoroughly. Georgia was a huge problem. Georgia wanted Cherokee land. If Georgia didn't do what Georgia did, the Cherokees would have never been relocated. But essentially, the state of Georgia negotiated with a very small select, the Treaty Party, and they will talk about this in this video, and pretty much got this very small select segment of the Cherokee population to betray the entire nation and sell their land.
In Alabama, their first contact with Europeans was with Hernando de Soto and his troops in 1540. In the early 1600s, the Cherokee began trading with the British colonists. They traded animal skins for things such as guns, cloth, glass, and tools. Trade changed the Cherokee culture immensely. They didn't need to hunt and farm to survive anymore. They could simply trade what they had for even better things. They fought alongside the British in both the French and Indian War and the Revolutionary War. When the Americans won the war, they took away some of the Cherokees' land for their own towns and villages. History.
So the Cherokee were essentially being punished for siding with the British in the Revolutionary War. Well, why did they side with the British and not the Americans? Well, the British were telling them that they weren't going to take away their land, and the Americans had already started to take away their land. They had worked with the British in the past. They fought with the British in the French and Indian War. So they had a long relationship with the British. Why would they betray their friends for the Americans that want their land? But yet, when the Americans won that war, the Cherokee were punished severely.
Contributing to the Trail of Tears. Before the Indian Removal Act, the Cherokee had been recognized by the government as their own nation. Though the state of Georgia didn't quite see it that way, the Cherokee had a lot going for them, such as an alphabet in their own language by the Cherokee scholar Sequoyah, their own constitution, much like the United States' own, and their own day-by-day newspaper, the Cherokee Phoenix. In 1828, gold was found on Cherokee land. Hundreds of white men started setting up camp near there, pushing them farther and farther west.
This is still a problem today. Black Mountain is still sought after by our government today because of the resources in that mountain, the gold, the ore. It's a very sacred mountain to Lakota Oglala Sioux, and they're still waiting. They're just still trying to get that mountain.
In 1830, the Indian Removal Act was passed, allowing the government to pay Native Americans for their land and then relocate them to a reservation in Oklahoma. which was at the time thought of not to be suitable for white men because the land was hard to farm.
Essentially, you can read the history, Mistress Angelica. I will go back after the stream is over and try to put some links for you so you can start. But as I was saying, I saw Nate speaking. He teaches a course on this. The best thing to do would be to speak to a historian, or better yet, speak with elders. Go to the reservations and speak with elders and learn the history from them, because they're going to tell you the history as they remember it, not the history as it is written by the European.
The Cherokee were divided in between those who wanted to leave the Treaty Party and those who refused to give up the land of their forefathers, the Ross Party, named for their chief, John Ross, who wanted to reach an agreement with the government to keep their land. Most people supported the Ross Party. So the Cherokee went to court and tried to sue the state of Georgia, arguing that since they were a separate nation,
I am planning on bringing one of my friends onto the channel to have a conversation about Native American affairs. He is an elder in the Cherokee Nation. He is very, very shy and timid about doing it, but hopefully I can bring him on and you guys can ask him whatever question, because he's very knowledgeable about the Cherokee affairs.
the United States did not have a right to take their land. Ironically, the court would not accept their case because they were a separate nation. So then they got Samuel Worcester, a missionary who lived in their village, to go to court for them since he was a U.S. citizen. This time, Chief Justice John Marshall ruled in favor of the Cherokee. However, the victory was short-lived. Secretly, the Treaty Party signed the Treaty of New Echota in 1835, agreeing to trade Cherokee land for the land in the West, and enough money to get there.
The Treaty Party would get their justice. The Treaty Party would be brutally murdered. I believe every single one of them were brutally murdered, and should have been brutally murdered for the traitors that they fucking were.
The rest of the Cherokee were shocked and outraged because the Treaty Party was a very small group and did not have the right to represent their whole tribe. So over 16,000 Cherokee, including John Ross, signed and sent a petition to the government to protest the signing of the treaty. However, President Jackson hardly glanced at it. The government gave the Cherokees 2 years to leave their land or be forced. The Trail of Tears. 2 days after the deadline, most Cherokee was still there. President Jackson sent General Winfield Scott and 7,000 soldiers to remove them from their homes and lead them west. They were put in holding pens like cattle, where there wasn't nearly enough food or blankets for everyone, and disease struck many before the actual march. Once they set out, the Cherokee people
The holding areas were worse than depicted here. They were mainly mud. Native Americans were starving, sleeping in mud. There was famine. It was horrific treatment of human beings. Horrific treatment. And this was a long time ago, but guess what? We're doing it again. Right now on our southern border with Mexicans this time.
were divided into 13 separate groups of about 1,000 each. They had to travel around 800 miles in all to reach their new homes. The conditions were terrible. Most walked with bare feet, and even the elderly were forced to carry heavy packs on their backs. They had to sleep on the bare ground and keep walking through rain or snow. Nearly a third of them died before the march was over. They buried at least 13 dead at every stop. They were not even allowed to have a proper burial, and they had to bury them on the side of the road. This long trail was called the Trail Where They Cried by the Cherokees and the Trail of Tears to us. The Trail of Tears was a very heart-wrenching episode in U.S. history.
What will happen to
The Trail of Tears is how my people came to be where they are now. My ancestor left the trail. A lot of people left the trail. Went out and tried to make their own way. Left the nation behind. Left their people behind. And that's how I come to be White Nakasuchi. That's how I'm here and out on the reservation with the rest of them. outside of the people that left. Many, many people died. Many, many people died. This was, there was no carriage to Oklahoma. This was in the middle of one of the worst winters in the history of our nation. They were forced to walk carrying heavy, heavy bags, forced to walk from Tennessee to Oklahoma. Would you want to walk from Tennessee to Oklahoma today with your Nikes? Because they didn't have no fucking Nikes.
To us. Your father died last night, they tell me. My mother and my father's clan members are crying. It just doesn't seem real. Nothing seems real. We are led out of the stockade. The guards all have guns and are watching us closely. We walk. My mother keeps me close to her. I wish I had a blanket. But the mountains are behind us. Each day we start walking a little later. They bury the dead in shallow graves because the ground is frozen. As we walk past white towns, the whites come out to watch us pass. No words are spoken to them. No words are said to us. Still, I wish they could stop staring. They made me leave our homes. They made us walk to this new place that we are heading in the middle of winter. I don't like these people. When I went to sleep last night, my mother was hot and coughing worse than usual. When I woke up, she was cold. I tried to wake her up, but she just lay there. My uncle pulls me from her. My aunt begins to wail. My mother's death, I do not understand. But I suddenly know that I am alone.
Anybody that tells you that what was done to the Native Americans doesn't matter. Anybody that tells you that it wasn't a forced removal from our land, they're racist. And they don't even know it. Anybody that's going to justify the genocide of my people are racist, even if they don't want to be called it. I'm going to be angry about this for a while now. And this is one of the main reasons why I usually don't have discussions about Native American affairs with other people. Because the ignorance of it really, really upsets me. Because this ignorance is affecting us today. It's affecting us today. The Guardian did a really, really good story on this, and we're gonna check this out. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for using this one.
We look for something else. We look for alcohol, we look for drugs, some way to get away from that reality.
You end up with kids going to jail, kids raising themselves, kids killing themselves.
I don't think there's racism involved. I think it's strictly economic. It's there because there's a need.
Pine Creek has one of the worst drug and alcohol addiction problems in the country. It is a nightmare, and it has been spoken about in Native American communities for about the last 40 years. No one seems to want to help the people of Pine Ridge Reservation. No one seems to want to help the Oglala Sioux. Once a very proud nation of peoples. They were the rulers of North America. One of the largest nations. And now they're resorted to this.
We learn from Standing Rock. They expect us to be violent. We know what to do now.
Case after case of beer loaded up and shipped out. For many, this image Monday morning becoming a symbol of hope and change.
White Clay, Nebraska, a tiny unincorporated town that sits on the border with South Dakota. With a population of just 14 people, its 4 liquor stores have for decades sold over 4 million cans of beer a year, almost entirely to members of the Oglala Lakota Sioux tribe on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, where the sale of alcohol is banned. Pine Ridge is one of the poorest communities in America. Over 80% of people here are unemployed, and up to 2/3 of adults suffer from alcohol addiction. But at the beginning of this summer, following a spate of violence and unsolved murders, the stores were temporarily closed. The state Supreme Court is now considering whether to make the move permanent. Just a few meters down the road, a group of Lakota campaigners have camped out since the closure.
Now you have to understand that this was a deliberate action taken by the United States government when they first put Native Americans on the reservations. They wanted to make Native Americans docile because they had just taken our land and we were fucking fighting and shit. So they wanted to make us docile. So they would bring in that fire water by the fucking boatloads. Shove it down our throats. And now, 100 years later, it's so bad. It's so bad. People live out in the fucking woods and just drink all day. Can't even understand them. Shitting and pissing themselves.
They don't plan to leave until a final decision is made. For many here, White Clay has taken a personal toll.
That's where they found my uncle. My uncle's dead right there.
What happened to them?
Nobody really knows. They were just found murdered and mutilated right there. And it was after a rash of murders of people who stood in White Clay and drank alcohol. And it was such a dangerous place. So violent and dirty, and you know, it was really it was hell.
What do you think will happen if the Supreme Court decides against and keeps White Clay open?
Well, we expect it, for one thing. When have they ever considered us human beings? They think of us as childlike, not able to handle ourselves in the modern world. They expect us to do something and react in anger. We learn from Standing Rock.
You know, there's a lot of good and bad things that is a result of Standing Rock, and I'm going to try to address some of those after we talk about Standing Rock. But I really like how the Sioux, and especially, are propping up Standing Rock as a very good thing, because essentially I think it was a very good thing, though there was a lot of issues that came up because of Standing Rock.
We know what to do now.
The entrenched issues of addiction and poverty have led to a youth suicide rate that is 4 times the national average. We came to visit the reservation's only intervention program, run by 2 women out of a basement beneath a post office. They rely on grant money and worry things will get worse if a series of proposed budget cuts by the Trump administration are carried through.
Our res isn't a very good place. We hear about guns going off in the middle of the night while we're sleeping. We hear about our aunts and uncles being shot over drugs and stuff.
And do you have friends that did take their own lives?
Yes, I had more than 10 friends commit suicide.
In what space of time?
2015, 2014.
2 fucking years, this kid had 10 of his friends kill themselves. See, suicide is rampant on reservations too. Domestic abuse, child molestation, rampant. As I've spoken of, and people call me a fucking liar, on most reservations because of treaty, tribes can't prosecute people not in the tribe. Laws designed to protect white people, but now it's, you know, if you're an American citizen, well, the tribes can't prosecute you, so you can rape us, beat us, and kill us, and we can't do nothing about it. We have to hope that the American government will. And guess what? Most times they fucking don't.
Are you worried this is going to get worse under Trump?
Yes, most definitely it's going to get worse under Trump. because he's already cut a lot of Native American programs. The children's come through that door and they're hungry. We go down to the park, they're hungry. They want something to eat. And it's not their fault.
This skate park, named after Tiny's grandson, Toby Eagleball, is one of the few places children can come to hang out.
He was killed in a car accident. He was driving, he didn't have a seatbelt on, and they were drunk, alcohol related. He got thrown from the car. So we started doing, and he loved to skateboard. And he was in college. To give him that better tomorrow, it takes a lot of people working together. You look at these kids, see how happy they are. You probably wouldn't know that some of these kids' parents are probably living on $5,000 a year. A year.
You heard that right. You heard that right. $5,000 a year. And most of these reservations have casinos. The people get a percentage of that revenue. A lot of casinos rely on tourist trade and they sell their turquoise this or that. These people don't make nothing. They don't have nothing. And they're forgotten. Stuffed on their reservations and forgotten. You see everybody else walking the streets of America, but you don't see Native Americans walking the streets of America. Not usually. Because we're all fucking dead.
For most people here, the temporary closure of White Clay marked a victory against what they described as a continuing form of white oppression. The liquor stores, owned by families in Nebraska, made millions selling beer to people here.
That's fine. I'll be here in 30 days, bro. You can believe that.
Lauren L. Paul, a Sheridan County commissioner, voted earlier in the year to keep White Clay open. The State Liquor Commission then overruled the local government.
It seems to me they're looking for someone else to solve their issues, and that's probably not going to happen.
A number of people that we've spoken to, people who have spent time in White Clay, who have battled their own addiction issues, who have lost family members to alcoholism, describe the dynamic there as a sort of post-colonial hangover. It's a group of white families selling millions of cans of beer to Native Americans. Do you have any sympathy with that dynamic they describe?
What's happened there is what happens when you have free enterprise. If you have a demand.
Yep, free enterprise, demand. Let's not care about these human beings that we're fucking destroying. You know, I'm all for freedom and I'm all for choice. But these people weren't given a choice. Their ancestors had it poured down their throats. And now it's in their fucking DNA.
Then somebody's probably going to step in to fill that.
So it's market forces, it's got nothing to do with race and racism?
I think absolutely right, it's market forces. I don't think there's racism involved. I think it's strictly economic, you know, it's there because there's a need.
In the summer since White Clay's closure, the tribal police have reported a surge in bootlegged alcohol. Like many public services here, the under-resourced and underfunded department that had 2/3 of its budget cut in a decade have struggled to cope.
Our biggest thing here is resources. Our officers are wore thin down. You know, right now there's 3 of us on. You know, it's a busy time of night. 60 miles east to west by about at least 90 miles north to south is the area that my 3 officers are covering tonight.
Most tribes are severely undermanned with their police forces. Have to cover wide expanses of land, under-resourced, underfunded. Since Trump came into office, he's done nothing but cut Native programs, Native budgets, as if we weren't fucking poor enough already. The greatest atrocity is what he did over No Dapple as soon as he got into office. That's the greatest atrocity. Just broke fucking federal law for oil companies because he was invested in it.
Not enough, right?
No.
How much has the bootlegging gone up since White Clay closed?
Tremendously, man. There's a bootlegger in every one of our little cluster housings in each of our districts. They're killing our people over greed and money. You know? At one point in time, we was a proud nation through genocide tactics, you know, taking our land, you know, giving us rations, you know, giving us handouts. It made us dependent. We look for something else. We look for alcohol, we look for drugs, some way to get away from that reality.
A series of 911 calls.
So did you understand that? Did you understand the mentality of dependence on these reservations? They depend on the United States government and have since they were pushed there. They depend. We have created that type of relationship with them, where they depend on us for the things that we're not going to give them. And it just gets swept under the rug. And we go to our Washington Redskins football game. It's disgusting.
Led us to this home where 3 families with 8 children live in a 3-bedroom house. One uncle lies inebriated at the doorway.
Dream it.
Get up, guy.
Another family member is passed out at the back.
Wake up.
I mean, I have been drunk in my life, but have you ever been that drunk? I mean, that drunk. Just passed out in the front yard. Can't get up, can't walk. I mean, I've been drunk. I got drunk last night. I ain't been that drunk. It's because they drink until they're just nothing left. Until they just pass out wherever the fuck they are. This is not something that is on Pine Creek alone. This is most reservations. You will find this. Usually the community has to come together and make food for them so they'll at least get some food in them, because they'll sit out there and drink until they starve. This is the American legacy nobody wants to talk about. And anybody that's going to sit here and talk to me about a great fucking country can kiss my ass.
Do you ever think about why this happens here?
Sometimes you do, you know. Maybe they seen it growing up, something that they learned, or maybe they got to a point in their life where they don't feel that they can contribute anything anymore, so they drink to forget those things. I don't know. There's a lot of different reasons why. Taking them to jail ain't helping it, you know, because we're gonna be tomorrow night we'll take them to jail again. You know, next night take them again. You know, it's a revolving door all the time. So.
Tiny and Eileen often accompany police on domestic violence and suicide call-outs. But
all right. Calm the fuck down. I am going to put some soda in my glass. I'm going to be right back, and we're going to talk no dapple. So maybe you guys can see why I don't usually, you know, talk Native American affairs in my hangouts, in my rooms, because this is something that I get very, very passionate about. This is a way that you can ruin any chance that I will want to be your friend, is if I talk about this with you. Because if you don't respond in the way that I need you to respond, I will not be associated with you. This is why I don't have this conversation. Because people are ignorant about this. But it's something that I have to talk about because this is the number one issue there is. Well, climate change is the number one issue there is, but guess who's on the front lines of climate change? Guess. Take one guess who's still trying to protect Mother Earth today, even after the genocide, even after the brutality, even after the sickness, even though we're basically an endangered species. It's us on the front lines every time, at every drill, every pipeline. It's us. Chaining ourselves to the ground that was ours, trying to protect it for you, trying to protect your water. Because water is the most important thing. Without it, we don't live. Without clean water, we don't live. We don't live. What did I do with my, I think I closed out the wrong one. So we're going to check out this one, and then I'll try to find the other one that I had. This is, so to give you a little bit, thank you, Kent Hovind CPA, for the $2 super chat. Do you find the Kansas City Chiefs name offensive? Not? No. The only one that I really find offensive is the Redskins and the Indians. There might be a couple more, but like the Seminoles were a tribe down there, and I actually see it as like, you know, some sort of communication about Native affairs. But the Redskins, that's offensive and racist language. Indian, that's offensive and racist language. Chief, well, there was chiefs. So no, the Chiefs don't bother me. It doesn't bother me. And as I told you, Kent Hovind CPA, or maybe I think you're the Chiefs fan that I talked to. They're going to be my second team this year. Because when you're a Detroit Lions fan, you have to pick a good team that has a chance to win the Super Bowl if you want to win a Super Bowl. So the thing about No DAPL is that once again, water protectors went on the offensive in the fight for climate change. That's what happened. That's what No DAPL was. No DAPL was ground zero in the fight for climate change at that time. And we were there. And it was a very historic time, and it was a very historic protest because over 200 nations came together for the first time in hundreds of years. 200 nations came together to fight oil companies and greed, to fight the American government, to save our water. Not just their water, and you know, their water would have been affected, but the waters of millions of white people. Drinking water that you need to live. So all these tribes came together, and they were coming all the way from Mexico, all the way from Canada. White people were coming. Black people were coming. Environmentalists, leftists, right-wing people, all to stand in the opposition of big oil and protect our water. That's what No DAPL was. That's what No DAPL was. Anybody that's going to talk to you about No DAPL, your first question should be, were you there? Because if they weren't, they probably don't know shit. Because it wasn't covered. It wasn't covered until they started really brutalizing us. Really brutalizing us. That's when they started covering it. You know, TYT was there the whole time. Vice News was there a couple times. But the rest of them weren't fucking there. They're owned by them oil companies. And we won. We beat Barack Obama and his government. We got the easement that stopped the pipeline. And then they were gonna have to do some federal shit that was gonna take months upon months upon months. Environmental survey. Federal law, they had to do it now. We got the easement, they had to do the survey the right way. They didn't do it the right way the first time. We won. And then Trump came into office. And Trump, with the sign of his pen, took that victory away, broke federal law, and started drilling immediately. This is the day that the federal government came into the camp.
We got Humvees, Bearcat armored vehicles moving in. The MRAP armored vehicle has passed through the concrete barrier. Looks like they're getting ready.
Zacto, that sounds familiar. I'm not too familiar with it, but it is scratching my memory. I'm gonna have to check that out. I'll check that out today because I'm gonna be steaming on this all night.
Ready to make a move on camp. So it looks like they're moving in pretty quick here. That Homeland Security helicopter.
So you understand that this is the United States government acting on behalf of corporations against people. Understand that this, in our modern country, our modern age here in America, that our government is using military force against people.
It keeps flying very close to our location. They've got a camera pod on the bottom.
Yeah, I am thinking about maybe having a hangout. So if people want to come around 9 o'clock, maybe we'll do it till 11. I was supposed to work tonight, but climate change. We had a fire yesterday. It's been so hot here in Michigan that we had a fire, and half the town's out of power. The fire spread like fucking, mad. And luckily, I'm not out of power. I'm on the other side of town, but over where I work, we ain't got no power.
To those safety lines across the river so everyone can reach them.
Yeah, it does kind of suck, Zach. I just got back to work and now I missed 2 days. Climate change.
Don't let this provoke you. Be strong in your heart.
The Bearcat with the LRAD on it is now inside camp. The MRAP armored vehicle is also starting to advance down the hill now, with several Humvees following. It's parked in the former location of Red Warrior Camp, for those who know where that is. All right, the MRAP's going down the hill. The MRAP has entered camp. All right, more Humvees are going down the hill through the snow into camp on the northwest end.
I mean, seriously, if you're an American citizen and you are not disgusted by the abuse of power by our federal government, shame on you. Shame on you. We live in a democracy. Our government are not our kings. They are not our rulers. We own them, not the other way around.
They've got a line marching south. That sounded.
I mean, the best thing with the craft is just speak about it. Just speak about Native American affairs. Let people know there are charities, and I will, like I said, get some links in the description below. So maybe check out those charities, but mainly education. People don't understand what's going on. They just don't know. They think it was all in the past, but it's still happening today. Still happening today.
What is that Homeland Security helicopter, you know, maybe 300 feet above us tops?
Yeah. The fire spread like a wildfire. Little hot, so my words ain't coming right.
So yeah, one of those officers is pointing, I believe, an assault rifle with live ammunition directly into the entrance of a teepee. This is on unceded Great Sioux Nation territory. One of them is cutting into the side of the teepee.
They are on tribal land, breaking treaty right now at the behest of oil companies. Right here in this moment, they are breaking treaty at the behest of oil companies.
They're ripping the teepee open.
And yeah, the best thing you can do, Fi is exactly right, is vote out the politicians that take this money. Vote them out. Don't let them be your leaders, because they're not leaders. They don't know how to lead. They just know how to get paid.
There's Humvees driving up onto the main road that goes through camp.
They are coming into a peaceful camp of peaceful water protectors, peaceful protesters, full force with the military. But this ain't even it. You know, that's enough of that. Let's go find what I want to talk about next. Must have deleted it. But it's up here somewhere. I just gotta find it. It's here somewhere. Let's find it. Can't believe I X'd that one out. Damn it. Took me a while to find that shit. Trying to find some hate. Where'd it go? Shit. I had a good clip of just the brutality of the worst night on the bridge. Yeah, I think this is Al Jazeera, but it looks like this is covering what I want you guys to see. So let's take a look at that. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for using Al Jazeera.
For the times they are
Don't know what I can use on these live streams.
For the times they are a change. For the times
damn it, YouTube.
They are a change.
Who do you serve? Who do you protect? Who do you serve? Who do you protect? Who do you serve?
All right, so the thing to understand here when you're seeing these images is this is in the middle of a North Dakota winter. It's freezing, and they are using cold water with high force on people protesting peacefully. They are shooting rubber bullets. They are shooting tear gas at people that are protesting peacefully, people within their First Amendment rights on their land. All right, so this is tribal land. They don't go by the United States Constitution. So let's just say the Bill of Rights don't apply to them, even though it fucking does. It's still tribal land. It's their land. Their land.
We have seen at least 4 gunshot wounds, 3 of them I know to the face and head. Rubber bullets.
It really does feel like a war zone, and it doesn't feel like we're in America in 2016.
All right, so right here, what you're seeing, that hill behind them, right? So this protest came together because one man wanted to go and pray for his ancestors. And up that hill is ancient Native American burial grounds where his ancestors were. And he just wanted to go up there and pray because that's part of their religion. That land is so sacred that these people are standing on right now. It's so sacred to the Sioux. This would be like the federal government coming to your grandmother's cemetery, digging her up and taking a shit on her. That's what is happening right now. So the guy wanted to just go and pray. And they wouldn't let them. So more people just came and showed up, and they started building the bridge to get across the river. And they started shooting them.
You have every right. This is sovereign nation right here. This is sovereign people's land right here.
Oh! You okay? You okay? Here.
Get those cars out of the way and bring your souls back! You're human! You are us!
Turtle Island, it's time to rise up.
Like, I'm about to fucking cry watching this shit. Like, this is taking me back. This was a very bad day for us. So yeah, you know, if I come on your stream, you might not want to dismiss me when I start talking about Native American stuff. Especially if we're talking about equality, if we're talking about helping people. You might not want to dismiss me if I start talking about this. Because it ain't fair. It ain't fair. This is happening today. To people I love, people I know. Good people that want nothing more than to protect this one earth we have. This is the only earth we have. If we don't protect it, we're gonna lose it. I want to thank you all for coming here and sharing this with me. I did not do this the right way last night. I was too drunk and I was too mad. But this is something that needs to be spoken of. This is something that needs to be addressed. We should tell our federal government that this is unacceptable. We should stand against these oil companies that want to destroy this planet. But too many of us are afraid because life might get a little harder without that oil. But it wouldn't. Renewable energy is the future. We don't need oil anymore. They just want to make that money and destroy this planet and destroy the people trying to save it. Thank you guys so much for coming, sharing this with me. Like I said, I'm going to probably try to get some kind of a hangout around. I have to leave at 11:30 to go pick up my roommate, so probably around 9 o'clock. It feels a little better now that I've gotten some of this out. But there's so much more I could speak of. So much we could speak of the infiltrators that the oil companies sent into the camp. We could speak of the 4 women that were raped, and now people don't trust white people again. Native Americans don't trust white people again, don't want white people on their tribe, on their tribal land no more because of the women that were raped, even though it's highly suspected that it was the oil companies sending people to infiltrate it. We could talk about all the veterans that came and took a knee and asked for forgiveness because that was a very great moment. I was there. I was there, crying, seeing all those soldiers on their knees. So much that I could talk about, and not enough time to do it. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you soon.